Good afternoon. How are
How are you
you?
doing, sir? How are you?
I'm good. I'm
Hope
doing
you're
well.
enjoying this nice late November weather today.
So far, so good.
Yes,
Yeah,
also good.
cannot complain about it, really.
I like it. I like
Yeah.
it.
How have you been?
Good. Excited. Obviously, too. Our Wednesday's gonna be a big day for the club, and I feel good about it. We've been playing really well, and the team is just. I feel like they gelled really well at the end of the year here, so I'm excited. Not gonna be easy. Kansas City's kind of been our nemesis on the road, but kind of like that we have to go there to advance. So
Yeah, it seems fitting.
yeah. No, it's the kind of ways how sports works. It finds your demons and makes you overcome them, I guess, so to speak. So
It is somewhat poetic in that way.
I love
I'm
it.
seeing the Millennium Falcon up behind you. I've been watching The Mandalorian
Nice.
pretty religiously.
Yeah, my kids and I are fans, so that's one of those ones that I've had for a long since they were kids. I got it for them, and then they didn't want it, so I was like, fine, it's mine.
Perfect.
Yeah, those are good series for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, the reason I wanted to get you on today, talking about Diego. I think where a lot of soccer fans would readily recognize him, a lot of the others who are maybe more casually, aware of the sport, aware of the game, might have only really understood what he was about this week.
Sure.
Or in passing stories. But when you look at a guy like that and the impact he had on the game and the impact he's had on players looking up to him, what sort of comes to mind for you?
Well, I'll start with huge impact on me and my career, my life. Obviously, soccer is still growing in terms of its popularity, even in this country, even though it's massively popular now. But when I first started playing in the 70s as a kid, and we had the kicks in Minnesota, and then in the 80s when I became a teenager, and it really was a time before the internet, before it was accessible for any sport, frankly, to get just anything you wanted, where kids can now just go on YouTube and get whatever they want. Diego was a huge star in the 80s, I think, for all soccer fans, especially for people like me that were just trying to find anything of highlights of soccer. And so the 82 and 86 World Cups were massively influential in terms of how it shaped how I look at the sport, how I think about it. And he was a global superstar. He was by far the best player in the world. Arguably him, Pele, probably Messi and Ronaldo are the best, greatest of all time. So I think it's hard for this generation to understand how big of a star he was, because right now we have this internet age where you could just get Messi, Ronaldo highlights anytime you want. And for me, 1986, the way he carried his country to that World Cup, they only had 5 players, I believe, that had World Cup experience. And he just took that country and gave them a World Cup. He left Barcelona in the early 80s and shocked the world and went to this town of Napoli that was kind of looked upon as like not a place to go be a soccer star, and brought them 2 Serie A titles. So again, he just did so many things differently. And I think part of what resonates as well is that he's flawed. There's no doubt. During his career, he had drug problems. After his career, you have mixed feelings because he's not this perfect athlete that represented the community and his club and his country. But if you watch what's happened in Argentina this week, if you really want to know about, the entire country had 3 days of mourning. Everything shut down for 3 days. He comes from a very small, poor town, from the favelas of Argentina. He kind of is that type of athlete that gives people hope, because he was such a genius and so brilliant. And he played with that kind of mentality. I think in Argentina they called it mania, which is do whatever it takes to win. And it resonates with people who are from neighborhoods, like do whatever it takes to get out. And he did that. He not only got out of that small town, he became probably the most genius soccer player ever in an era that was so physical and tough. And he rose to the top, and again, I can't say enough how much he meant to me in terms of my soccer, and, how many times I would go out and try to emulate his amazing dribbling skills.
Yeah, I know a lot came up about the goal against England, where it was, had there been VAR back then, they might have done that a little bit differently. But
Yeah.
Still, and I look at sometimes my fascination with the sport of soccer is, I mean, not only the technical skill required for it, but also the ways that it becomes a bit tied up in geopolitics sometimes. So when it came to seeing, Argentina beat England on this massive stage, games like this seem to take on an otherworldly quality, like a little bit more symbolic, a little bit more pride for the nation itself, which, I mean, you see this every few years with the World Cup, but that seemed to elevate him, as you mentioned, right there to national hero status.
Yeah, I mean those, I think it was actually 5 minutes of total soccer where he scored a goal that he cheated. I mean, there's hands down, like he straight up cheated. And I think half the world looks at that in a dishonorable way. The other half is like, that's what you do to try to win. You do everything you can. And then 5 minutes later, he scored what, was deemed to be then the goal of the century, which was unbelievable. So I think those 5 minutes kind of encapsulate everything about Diego, who he was. He was a flawed character that would show all that. And when he became this massive global superstar, we got to see everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly. But then, the other goal, I mean, just the brilliance of playing against one of the best teams in the world, slicing through so many players. And again, like I said, in that World Cup, to carry him on the back. Obviously, to your point, the geopolitical side of that, right around the Falklands War time, it was just a fascinating time. I think in how he rose to stardom and fame by really, like I said, it's very rare that an athlete would carry an entire country on their back and become a national hero, but he did that.
Yeah, he did. But I'm also interested in the way, as we've mentioned a few times already, the guy he did not have the manicured image that a lot of global superstar athletes would have today. And in a way, I find that to be a little bit more authentic in that, yeah, here's me, good, bad, and ugly, and understand that I am a man, just a man, and at the same time, holding the hopes and the dreams of nations and of clubs and of young aspiring athletes on my back. And that is no small thing to ask of somebody, but it is also to see, how one would carry that. I mean, it's a hard thing to ask.
It is. And, I have mixed feelings because obviously, I think when you are part of a sport that's so global and inspires so many, hundreds of millions of people, you certainly ideally would want to have somebody that inspires them in a way that maybe unites the community with positive messages. And the reality is Diego wasn't that type of star athlete. He had a lot of trouble when the soccer wasn't the focal point. He wasn't on the field because he was that big of a star. Every movement, every time, everywhere he went, every action he did, both on and the field, were always scrutinized. And his marital life was scrutinized. His decision to go to a nightclub or to stay in and order pizza was scrutinized. So I can't imagine having that burden. But to your point, I also, when I look back now, there's something sad but refreshing that there are different types of star athletes out there. Some are flawed, some have trouble dealing with the pressure, and in reality was, for large parts of his career, he dealt with it in amazing ways. It just, he couldn't do it consistently. And I think after he was done playing, it really hit hard in terms of his health habits and really, he had this kind of unique coaching career. Even coached the Argentine national team in the 2010 World Cup. They have this like Diego cam when he was coaching in Argentina before he died, and the whole camera was nothing about the game, was just on him the whole time, which is just an example of what his life was like. Literally, he's a coach on the sideline, and instead of the game, they're just following his movements on the sideline.
Yeah, to have that level of attention is something interesting. I mean, I think about, I know we just had the summer where The Last Dance was on everyone's minds. And I think the part that stood out to me was that Michael Jordan's in his hotel room, basically saying, this is the only moment where I have any peace. There is a camera here, but this is a camera that I've authorized. Otherwise, I don't have all the attention. I don't have all of the, everyone wanting my time, my space, my attention. And that is, again, it's a burden as much as it is a privilege. But still, I laugh again about the second goal he scores in England, because it's sure, they gave up the one that was a little controversial, but at the same time, like, if you're not giving up that second goal, I mean, that play style, I think you don't see that too often.
Oh no, I mean, I love how he scored one so controversially, and then to basically not make people think about that goal. He scored what's considered, like I said, the goal of the century, and to really kind of push his country towards its semifinals, and they went on to win the World Cup. So against the country that founded soccer and has so much pride in the sport as well. So truly an amazing moment. And I always look at it like an amazing 10 minutes of soccer that shaped, two countries' kind of fates for a while.
Yeah. How did he shape you?
Well, it's amazing because, again, my era of the 80s was when I was a teenager, and literally there's two sports I loved. I love basketball, and I got that every day. I got that every moment. We just mentioned The Last Dance, and it was a part of my life, and so that was easy to absorb and find heroes and love Dr. J and Michael Jordan, especially those two in the 80s were probably my two biggest stars. But soccer was different. Soccer, I'd have to go with my dad to a bar with a big old satellite dish and figure out how to watch South American Championship or European Championship. And it was really kind of a weird, seedy way to kind of find, or you would go out and have to go bootleg cassette tapes or videotapes. And then you just get these highlights of this little like tank of a guy who, changed the trajectory of the game, whereas there were a lot of just big, strong athletes in soccer. And then you have these low center of gravity guys like Diego who just would whiz by guys and turn on a dime. And so I idolized him. There's no way to say it. He was a genius. I was that age where I'd go out, and it's why I wore Pumas for a while, because I wanted Diego Maradona Puma soccer shoes, and I had them for a year or two in high school. So he was a huge influence, especially because he just represented such a creativity, played the same position I did on the field when I was a teenager. So all of those things that you want as a kid were just like when you go out and try to recreate that final 3-pointer. I did the same thing in soccer in the 80s. I'd go out and try to recreate Diego's runs to go score the winning goal and dream of championships like he created.
Yeah. I think that is absolutely how a kid would have received that. I mean, I think about, not just MJ. For me, probably it was closer to Kobe than MJ.
Yeah.
I was a little bit young for Michael.
A little younger, yeah.
Yeah. But my goodness, the kind of the icons, it's like they're sort of dropping off on us, and it's a strange thing you get to this point, and you appreciate, you reminisce, and you think about what the impact was. But man, I think it's making us appreciate everyone else now that we still have them a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's been a wild week in the soccer world because he was loved by so many, appreciated by so many for his geniusness of what he did and what he accomplished, and how he made everybody else on the field better as well. He really was somebody that kind of showed in soccer that if you put a star on the field, everybody gets 10 times better. And again, I love the idea of no matter what team or what tournament he was in, he always gave the team hope that they were going to win that day, even if the odds were that they shouldn't win, because man to man, they're not nearly as good as the other team. So he just had that specialness that, people had to watch him, had to see him play. And you just, like I said, if you go back now, and it's great that they have some documentaries on everything about him, the good, the bad, the ugly, but certainly as more and more people kind of find the old highlights and try to get them out there, it's just amazing. It really is Messi-esque in terms of the level of dribbling skills he has.
Yeah. So I wanted to come back around and talk a little bit about the club, not too heavily, but
Sure.
I talked with Ja'Cory about a week and a half ago, very recently. But I can imagine for you guys, this has been, well, just like for everybody else, an unbelievable year, and not necessarily in all the best ways, but this has sort of tested everyone. What are you made of? What can you do with what you have? But for the performance you guys have been able to put together this year to get to the playoffs again, to be in this position, I imagine it's been a whole lot of blood, sweat, and tears to get here.
It's been unbelievable. And sorry, my mind goes first that you talked to Ja'Cory, who's just an amazing young man. He's had a great season for us. I mean, we traded for him from Dallas, and we were excited about him, but we didn't know what we were going to get. And we just got on and off the field. He has performed amazingly. Just so it's hard for me. My brain went to Ja'Cory, who's just been unbelievable for us. And he is a great young pro athlete for Minnesota United. So we're really excited about his future here. But in terms of the team, it's kind of a blur when you think about how hard it has been to get here, not a traditional way. Usually I would say that the season is a story, and the story has to have some drama on the field in terms of the group coming together and figuring out how to win tough games. But this year had all of that, plus a pandemic of 3 months, 2.5 months off. And then we had this MLS's back tournament for 6 weeks where the guys had to be in a bubble in Florida. And some of those games counted towards our regular season. And then we had to come back from the bubble and get into it again in the regular season and win games, and then win games without fans because the stadiums had to be empty. And it's just been a wild ride, and ultimately I can't tell you how proud I am of this club. I first starts with the players on the field, starts with our coaching staff, embracing the challenges as well. I've been telling people too, I got to give a shout out to our front office who have really embraced in every way, shape or form, trying to figure out the best way for this club to keep going and be competitive. And I can't tell you how excited I am coming up to the game Wednesday, because it's going to be tough. Yes, it's in Kansas City, but the guys have just performed so well all year, but specifically the last 4 weeks, I think we've been outstanding, and we keep getting a little bit healthier and healthier. And I think we've showed some great qualities in the last couple of games that I think is going to set up a really exciting game on Wednesday. And I think a big playoff run for us.
I agree with that. And I think the underappreciated part of this is some of these matches had to happen where guys are just showing up day of, and you're like, hopefully we find some chemistry here, but let's go out and play.
Yeah, no, listen, at the end, I think the guys have really been excited to play hard, and that's what they've done. So they've given us so much in terms of the balanced game that I think you need to compete and win. Our front 4 or 5 have been outstanding. I would say Ethan Finley, Reynoso, Kevin Molino, and Robin Lode, unbelievable. I mean, they've just shown some attacking prowess the last month that I think all our fans are excited about. But on the other end, our back 4, our defensive line with Dabasi and with Boxall, and then we got 2 young kids in Chase, and at times when Asani plays there, and/or when Roman, our French right back, they've all done great. And then we have, I don't want to say he's a super young goalie, but he really is. He's only been in the league a couple of years, and Dane St. Clair has stepped in after some injuries, major to our starter, and we haven't missed a beat with him. I mean, that might be one of the stories of the year for the club. So, again, every time I think of a guy, they seem to have stepped up and said, hey, let's make sure we compete this year. We've done that. I
love it. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how far you guys go with this, because for the time I've been able to follow you all, it's like there has been a foundation built for the future. And at the same time, we're able to see results now for it.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's been a nice progression. And we knew when we started out MLS and we had to build a stadium, we had to make sure we were really, intentional about our roster build. I think the staff has done a great job of building a big club that we think can be successful a long time. And it certainly starts with our coaching staff and Adrian and him really embracing the long-term project. And that was trying to invest in the players while trying to invest in a stadium, while trying to grow, whatever channel we're growing. We have a great scout and recruitment channel now. We have a great sports science channel now. We have a great health nutrition channel now. So again, I really do believe we're in a great phase where we really want to be aspirational and be one of the bigger branded clubs, not only in MLS, but hopefully in this hemisphere and eventually, hopefully, the globe.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that part. Yeah, and I enjoy Adrian just in general. The guy has a sharp sense of humor, that if you're not paying attention to, sometimes you'll miss it.
Yeah, I think he's got a sharp sense of humor and an honesty that maybe some coaches don't always give the media. I really do think, he tends to say what's on his mind, good or bad sometimes, and it's in the moment. But I think he gives an honest opinion of how the guys do that day and where he is with the team and what we're doing. So to me, again, I think like a lot of pieces of our club, it's been nice for him to be involved in all the planning over the last couple of years to really get to the point where we think we have a really healthy roster. We even know, even this year, no matter how we do, we have some pieces we want to build and grow. But we think we're in the right phase to push ourselves even to the upper echelon of the top couple teams in the league, hopefully. And I should say Reynoso really has helped. That mid-season signing, he's just a really special quality player. He's got the skill. He really raised the level of everybody else. Since he's gotten here midsummer, I just think we've taken another step in terms of how we play, how we go about teams, how we game plan. And frankly, it's great when teams have to kind of be worried about our offensive players. I think that just gives us an advantage going into each game.
Yeah, it does.